Hi and welcome to the Malat Cookery channel. So I'm a big fan of original American cuisine, and especially those recipes that originate from the southern states of the USA. Now what we're going to be cooking today is one of those old school Tennessee style recipes, which is smothered pork chops. And the spice blend we're going to be using from the Malat range, which is made for this type of recipe, is Memphis Dust. As usual, a full list of ingredients will be given at the end of the video, so let's have a look at those ingredients and anything else we're going to need for today's recipe. So the ingredients for today's recipe are really simple. We've got 1 kilo of good quality pork chops, 1 large white onion which has been sliced, some oil for frying, 250 grams of plain flour or all-purpose flour, 2 unsmoked rashers of bacon which have been chopped, 2 lots of 10 grams of the Malat Memphis Dust, 1 litre of a good quality chicken stock. Now I make my own, but if you don't make your own chicken stock, then 2 good quality chicken stock cubes in a litre of boiling water will suffice. And I've got 30 grams of butter. So the first thing we need to do is to take 10 grams of our Malat Memphis Dust, and I'm just going to cover lightly, just dust both sides of these pork chops. I'm then going to cover them in food wrap or cling film and leave them in the fridge for about 2 hours prior to cooking. So now that we've taken these chops from the fridge, we've let them rest at room temperature for about 10 minutes. The next thing we need to do is to produce a seasoned flour in order to dust the chops with prior to frying. So we take our second lot of the Malat Memphis Dust and just place that into the flour and mix in well. So we have our seasoned flour and our chops. The next thing to do is to fry the chops in some oil. So I've got about 6 tablespoons of oil in here, good glug of oil. Bring that up to temperature. And then we just take our chops, cover them on either side with the seasoned flour, and just shake off any excess. And then place them into the oil. So try and choose a pan that is big enough to cook all of the chops at the same time. If you haven't got a pan big enough, then obviously you're going to have to do this in 2 batches. Okay, that's all of the chops in the pan. We're now going to be cooking these on a very low heat for about 45 minutes. During that cooking time, I'm going to be turning the chops at least 2 or 3 times just to make sure they don't burn. But we need to ensure that the chops are cooked all the way through. So our pork chops are now cooked through. The next thing we need to do is make the gravy. So we're just going to reserve these pork chops, keep them warm while the gravy is being made. So we need to keep all of those flavours in the pan. The first thing we need though is some additional pork fat. Modern day pork chops, modern day farm pork is just too lean. So the addition of some extra pork fat just adds to that flavour. Now if we were going really old school, we would be using a piece of belly pork, diced, but I figure that some people may not be able to get hold of belly pork, so that's why I'm using unsmoked bacon rashers. So we place our chopped bacon rashers into the pan. Just going to turn the heat up to about a medium heat. And then just cook that bacon through. And we want to cook the bacon until it starts to go crispy. So this bacon started to go crispy now. This has taken about 7 minutes, and this is what's called the Maillard reaction. This is where we get searing of the meat, creating some incredible flavours. If you want to know a bit more about the Maillard reaction, have a look at the Malat YouTube channel and the Barbecue Basics video series, because I explain in a lot more detail what the Maillard reaction is. Right, next thing to do, I've just turned the heat down a bit. I'm going to add the onion. Okay, and what we want to do with the onion is just soften the onion, so we're taking about 4 minutes. Again, as I said, the heat's been reduced. We don't want to burn the onion at all. Okay, so the onions are softening up nicely now, starting to go a little bit translucent, so now we need to add the 30 grams of butter and just melt that in. So now we've got the butter melted. If we go back to the seasoned flour that we used to coat the pork chops with, we'll still have some of that left, so I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of that seasoned flour and just cook that through for a couple of minutes. So this will be our thickening agent for the actual gravy. So the next thing we want to do is mix our chicken stock in, but just mix it in a little bit at a time, and that will be a lot easier in preventing any lumps. And for that, I'm just going to turn the heat up a little bit. So once all of the stock is mixed in and you don't have any lumps, I'm now going to leave this to simmer for at least 5 minutes. The gravy will start to thicken up, but I also want to taste for seasoning as well. I don't do it now. I want to wait for 5 minutes until these flavours are able to develop. I'll then season as necessary, and obviously everybody's different. And then from there, we're going to be placing the pork chops back into the gravy. So the gravy is thickening nicely now. It did want a little bit of seasoning, so I've put some salt and pepper in there. The next thing to do is to place our warm pork chops into the gravy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave this to simmer for about 20 minutes with the lid off. That will reduce the gravy further. It will thicken the gravy, but also it will increase the intensity of the flavour. And then I'm going to be serving this with a mashed potato. So that's it. Old school Tennessee style smothered pork chops. Not a packet of powdered chicken soup in sight. I really do hate it when people start to introduce sort of processed foods just to boost the flavour when there's enough flavour there already. It's just knowing how to get it out of the actual food itself. So as usual, please subscribe to the channel, and if you've enjoyed this particular video, hit that like button. Thank you very much for watching.